Hi all, this is Michael from Seagod again. Pleasure to have you back. In the last video, we looked at how much you should eat. If you haven't seen it, take a look. The answer was 2,465 calories for myself, with my current lifestyle trying to maintain my weight. Okay, I mentioned that this was 50% of the story, right? This was 50% of the calories inside. So surely you asked yourself, where? Well, where do those calories come from? How do I know how many calories there are in my food? So technically, it's an expensive process where they burn the food based on how much energy it took to burn it. Then you know how much energy is in that food, and then you can translate that to calories. That said, I would not recommend that you burn all of your food. It wouldn't be very tasty, sustainable, or even keep the calories in the food. So kind of a useless process. Well, then how do we do it then? I think you may or may not have heard of the answer. It is macronutrients. Exactly. This is the next 30% of the calories in story. You probably know them. Well, maybe. Say it with me. Fat, carbs, protein, and then four. Wait, what's four? It's ethanol. You're like, Michael, does that mean that drinking counts, right? Can I just have beer, on a diet and lose weight? And I mean, yeah, technically, kind of. We'll get into the specifics of quality of dieting in the future, but yeah, you can lose weight on ethanol, but probably shouldn't. So anyway, what's the story? Basically, protein plus fat plus carbs plus ethanol equals calories in. You add them up, brilliant. In short, we take uh, the fact that protein has 4 calories per gram, so do carbs. Fat has 9 calories per gram, and ethanol has 7. And we can basically directly translate between grams of protein and calories. For example, if I take 10 grams of protein, I know it has 40 calories. Hell yeah, another 2,425 calories for me to go. Nice. I hope I did the maths right. um, you do it for all of the macronutrients, it all adds up, and you find out how many calories you've eaten. Doesn't sound too bad, does it? Okay, well, you do probably have a few questions for me, okay? One, is there a difference between each of the macronutrients, or is it all the same? I mean, is it just, well, why wouldn't I just eat protein and carbs if they have less calories and I want to lose weight? And if I want to gain weight, why don't I just eat fat? Okay, good question. Two, how much of each should I eat? So kind of, follows on. And three, what are the priorities between them? So, question one, what is the difference between all of them? Each has its own purpose, basically, right? Well, kind of. Ethanol gets you drunk. We generally don't think about it when we're talking about macronutrients. It's not necessarily all that useful. It can even be detrimental. But if you were to have your beer, whatever, it is important to know because that is adding calories, and you should definitely know that. So now to the more important ones. First of all, protein, the most famous macronutrient for muscle building. And that is for a very good reason. Protein can be thought of as the building blocks of the body, right? Well, it's created out of what are called amino acids, and they build up the body. So generally the building block of the body, right? It has an anabolic effect. Simply means it builds up the side of the metabolism, right? It's the building up side of the metabolism. Simply, right? It helps your muscles, connective tissue, etc. grow, right? Really important. Do you want your muscles to grow? Protein. Not quite that simple, but definitely important to be taken in, right? It has the benefit of having a high satiety to calorie ratio, which simply means it fills you up more. The more protein I eat, the more full. Like if I have the same amount of carbs, I don't feel as full. You know when you've had like a massive bowl of pasta, a huge plate of pasta, and you're like, I could still go for more, but then you have like one chicken breast, and you're like, oh, stuffed. Well, there's a good reason for that. Another little bonus is it increases your expenditure. It requires more energy to process, which means that it kind of burns energy. We'll talk about it more in the future. So then two, carbohydrates. Famous one. People like to avoid it for some reason. I don't know why. It gives you loads of energy when it is broken down to glucose. it makes it particularly useful around exercise periods, especially simple carbohydrates in exercise as well can be very useful, and then more complex carbs maybe around it, so it's time to break down, but all of that to be looked at as well. Almost not more importantly, because they're very related, it has an anti-catabolic effect, which means it slows down the process of your tissues breaking down. Which is brilliant. Basically, it helps your muscles grow by making sure that when you do your exercise, when you do your bodybuilding, whatever you do, it they don't break down as much, which is fantastic, right? We want to grow them, and there's two sides to it. We want stuff to grow, but we also want it to not break down. So otherwise, we're just kind of turning our wheels. So carbohydrates are really important. I was actually shocked when I found this out. I kind of underestimated the power of carbohydrates. Right. So protein builds you up. Carbohydrates make sure you don't get broken down. What does fat do? It is like the teacher. It maintains the balance in your hormonal profile. It makes sure that the things that are supposed to happen keep happening, that your hormones are all in check. So, very, very important. All of the right tasks, you want the right tasks to happen, right? It's great to take in loads of protein. It's great to take in loads of carbs, but if the right tasks don't happen, it doesn't matter, right? So they all play complementary roles. You want to make sure you eat enough of them. That leads me to question 2, right? Well, 2. How much? That depends a lot, right? So in general, there is a minimum of 0.7 grams per kilo per day for protein, carbs, and fats. I'll get to a little more in that later. And well, 0 for ethanol. I mean, that's the minimum goal, unless you drink too much, and then yeah, fair enough. I thought of the tactic where you have a certain ethanol goal and you slowly decrease it. But anyway, that's getting distracted here. So for my 81.7 kilograms, that would mean I want to have 57.19 or 57 grams of each macronutrient per day. So I don't know. Obviously, I might stop talking about it. Kind of wasting a lot of time. Okay. So this is a general minimum. It is useful if you want to live a generally healthy lifestyle in the long run. There are special circumstances, some of you may know, where this might not be the case, such as, for example, the keto diet where you don't have carbs. But this is a good general rule, and we can get into more specific diets and why you might do certain things and why most of the time it's actually kind of pointless, but whatever. We'll get more into that in the future. Now, I will later on go into further depth as to why these minimums can be too low in certain situations as well outside of special diets. But a big one I want to cover is for those who are in particular trying to lose weight. You want to maximize the fat you lose. You don't want to just shrink, right? And you want to keep some of that muscle around, I assume. And so in order to do that, a better minimum for protein would be around 1.6 grams per kilo. So it is a nuanced topic, depends on the kind of sports you do, etc. So kind of follow this general rule. 0.7 grams per kilo, which for me would be around 51 grams, I can't remember, 57 grams. And for fats and carbs, and then 1.6 grams per kilo for protein if you're trying to lose fat or whatever. But yeah, I think you understand. And finally, question 3. How should I prioritize them? Right? Well, that depends again on your specific needs. Ensure you're hitting the minimum, so 0.7 for each of the 3 macronutrients, and the rest depends on context. So in general, because I am more athletic, I want to keep my muscle around. I prioritize protein. I make sure I hit that every day. And then I'm a little more flexible with fats and carbs. It can depend a little bit on the day. I want more carbs around exercise, but I'll get into timing more in future videos. There you have it. That's the next tool in your arsenal of understanding. As you may have noticed, I didn't mention any extreme diets. Well, I mentioned them a little bit, but I didn't mention them, right? Definitely. Or even any specific foods to eat. And this is because if they do offer any improvements on the baseline, it is a much smaller effect, right? It is far more important to follow these general concepts first. Okay, so let's recap. Make sure you know how many calories to eat, then fill in those calories with the desired macronutrients. It seems that we still have a way to go in understanding. Kind of yes and no. These are the foundational, more theoretical ideas, right? You can absolutely use these ideas, apply, and get fantastic results already. However, in future videos, I will go through a more practical approach, trying to understand, okay, well, how exactly do I want to do this? Remembering that you can even examine your own way of eating, and if it fits these particular criteria, then you're absolutely fine and just keep eating that way. Anyway, remember to sign up for the fat loss program down below and subscribe to become the most performant you. See you around. Bye-bye.